Hi, I'm Jake, and I've been drawing Pokemon since I was 7 years old. I know at the end of the last video I said that I'd be making more Pokemon for the Greek-inspired Fakemon region, but honestly I want to take my time with that and make sure the designs are the best that I can produce. So in the meantime I thought I would make some more Fakemon from the randomly generated sprites because you guys are loving it and I love making them. So let's get straight into it.
I picked these 3 sprites first because all of them had like pointy horns that reminded me of bulls, so that was going to be the theme for this line. The first sprite gave me like a little angry dude's energy, so that's what I turned it into. In my head I was thinking of this angry tiny guy that would charge at you with its big horns, but I was having trouble trying to convey that with the front facing pose, so I tried to angle it as if it was mid-charge. I'm not sure why, but it reminds me of the pigs from Angry Birds, even though they're green. Introducing Ramlets, the ramming Pokemon. Ramlet get worked up when they see larger Pokemon. They're known for taking on Pokemon double their size. They're known to charge headfirst at anyone who gets too close. So I see Ramlet being almost like the Route 1 normal type for whatever region this ends up being. This is the sprite that I picked for Ramlet's evolution, and at first it doesn't really look like a bull, but I interpreted those reddy pink pixels at the top of the sprite as red eyes, as if the bull Pokemon was angry, and then the lighter colour pixels coming off towards the side as the horns, with a purple body with arms in a muscly pose. I hold my hands up and admit that I did have to take some creative liberties with this one. I mean, it does have a big black square in the middle of its design, which I couldn't really translate into anything. But in the end, I'm really happy with this design. This is Torrage, the anger Pokemon. Torrage are constantly angry. It makes training one really hard. If you find one in the wild, it's probably best to leave it alone rather than approach him. I think that I would give Torrage the anger point ability. I think it really fits the idea that I'm going for with it being an angry bull. For Torrage's evolution, I wanted to convert some of that anger into grumpiness. The curved green pixels made me think of big goat horns, so I think that was the basis of my design, was a grumpy old goat, like a billy goat's gruff. Because of this, I tried to give aspects of the design an old and tired feel to them. That's why I went with that eye and the moustache. I gave it the humped back and a bent over pose, as if it was almost decrepit and old. But I kept the horns as the forefront of the design to imply that if angered, it could still give you a massive headbutt. This is Gruffinox, the grumpy Pokemon. Most Gruffinox are recorded as being over 100 years old. They've lived lives full of battles and now want to retire in peace. Anyone who disturbs that peace, whether accidentally or on purpose, is met with a ferocious headbutt. So here's this whole evolution line together. Let me know what you think down below. I'm actually really proud of how they came out, particularly Gruffinox. When I was looking through the sprites, I was trying to think in my head what could be made into like a normal type Fakemon, because the generator gives you such random colours. I wasn't quite sure if it would work. I mean, I suppose Rattata is a purple Pokemon. Anyway, I really like how they turned out, and it gives me like Lillipup and Stoutland vibes, being a 3-stage normal type Pokemon that you can find early on. To continue the theme of trying to fit Pokemon themes or recurring themes into these randomly generated sprites, I needed to find a regional bird Pokemon. In the end, I went with these 2 sprites, and I chose to look at them as if it was a top-down sort of view of the bird Pokemon. I saw the diagonal pixels as its 2 wings, and the black pixels at the bottom as talons with little minty coloured tips. So I drew it in almost like a skydiving pose. This is Darkwing, the dive bomb Pokemon. Darkwing patrol their territories way up in the sky where no other Pokemon can see them. Once they spot their prey, they dive bomb them at gale force speed. Darkwing can fill the role of the regional bird Pokemon. It would be a pure flying type and be very, very fast. For Darkwing's evolution, I wanted to keep the dive bomb theme going, so I interpreted this sprite as having it beak down, with its 2 big wings at either side of it and some tail feathers at the top of the sprite. I interpreted the 2 black pixels as its pitch black eyes. This is Rush Raptor, the dive bomb Pokemon. Rush Raptor's eyes are capable of spotting the smallest prey from miles away. Once locked onto their target, they'll spear it with their sharp beaks or talons. Again, I'll hold my hands up here. I did have to take some creative liberties with this line just to increase that cohesion between the 2 evolutions. The colours sort of flowed, or at least I thought they did when I picked these sprites. And the idea does as well with the beak down dive bombing birds. You'll have to let me know down below if you think that I've strayed too far from the original sprites. For the next two sprites though, I think I really stayed true to the vision that I saw when I first spotted these sprites on the sheet. They reminded me of newts and axolotls, and I thought could act as the early water type Pokemon for this region. You know, like your magikarp or your Feebas that evolves into the strong or beautiful fish. So the vibe that I wanted to convey from this sprite was a derpy little dude, think like Wooper really. I interpreted all the rose coloured pixels as gills? I don't really know what comes off the side of an axolotl's head. But anyway, this is Axododo, the merfolk Pokemon. Axododo live their carefree lives at the bottom of lakes and rivers. They let the currents drift them wherever it takes them. This carefree Pokemon would have the Oblivious ability, and I think would be a pure water type. Like I mentioned earlier, for Axododo's evolution, I wanted to go down the Gyarados or Milotic route, and I thought, why not include both of them? I thought a mermaid or a siren was the perfect way to do this. It was feminine but also monstrous. I actually spotted this sprite first and then immediately came up with the idea in my head, and then tried to find a sprite that would fit the idea of a pre-evolution for it. Introducing Submerjuicer, the merfolk Pokemon. Submerjuicer use their cute charm ability to attract unsuspecting Pokemon close to the water's edge. Once they drop their guard, they'll be dragged away to sea. I think that I would give Submerjuicer the dragon type as its secondary type. I'm not sure why, maybe it's the green and the red, but it just makes me think of the dragon type. I'm personally a big fan of how these turned out, and I think Axododo is really cute. Let me know down below if you agree. Now for the last evolution line of the video. And it was actually really hard to pick sprites for this one, but not because there weren't any that worked together, it was actually the opposite problem for once. A random sprite generator gave me loads of robotic looking sprites, so there was an abundance to choose from. In the end, I settled on these three, probably because the colours were the most consistent. The first one made me think of like a little spark plug machine, the second a big robot, and the third a big Tesla coil. The first sprite was making me think of Rotom, so I had this cheeky little electric steel sprite idea in my head. The two colours that it gave me were really similar, with it being a light green and a yellowy colour. So I had to give it an outline to distinguish that big cheeky grin from the rest of its body. Meet Luminx, the malfunction Pokemon. Luminx bury their bodies inside of computers and machines and feed off the electricity that they generate. Unfortunately, this causes a lot of problems for the people who use the machines. I wanted to make this pure electric type Pokemon almost like a computer bug or a tick that infests computers and feeds off the electricity from them. That's why I gave it the name Minx. I had a lot of trouble designing Luminx's evolution. With picking this sprite, I obviously picked it because it's quite robotic in nature, but I didn't think that the robot design that I made actually looked like a Pokemon, so I scrapped that and started again. And I started with the 3 yellow dots being its eyes, interpreted that black stripe as a computer screen and the yellow stripe being an electric-like mouth. Then I used the rust colour to make a robotic body around that, and interpreted the yellow pixels at either side as electric arms to carry on the idea from the first evolution. This is a Semboot, the scrap Pokemon. Luminx evolved by combining the machines that it feeds on into its own body. As scrap metal forms around it, its body becomes bigger and stronger. At this point, I think a Semboot would gain the steel type in addition to the electric type. Now, I was thinking about making Luminx just a one-stage evolution, but then I saw this sprite and fell in love with it. I was so excited to design it that I actually went to my car on my lunch break to draw it instead of waiting until I got home. You guys better like it as much as I do, or that's going to look quite embarrassing. But anyway, this guy gives me like Ultra Beast vibes. It's based on a Tesla coil or a lightning rod with a plasma ball on top of it. This randomly generated sprite didn't come with any yellow lines at the side that I could interpret as arms, so I allowed my creative liberties to use black and create black lightning arms. This is Coilosma, the lightning rod Pokemon. Coilosma adapt the junk that it harvested for its body into a perfect machine that generates and attracts electricity. Sadly, it also harvested negative energy from the discarded machines that it used for its body, and it turns its electricity black with hatred. Can you tell that I'm making up these dex entries as I go? Anyway, this would be an electric and steel type with the lightning rod ability. Coilesma's name comes from coil, as in Tesla coil, Colossus because it's really tall, and plasma because that's what it generates. Really love how this Fakemon line turned out. I mean, I am biased because I love non-organic Pokemon, and I love Objectmon like Clink or Magnemite for example, and I feel like this falls into that category. I'm just not sure that the middle evolution fits the line. Maybe it would be best going from Luminx and evolving just with a metal coat to the final evolution. But hopefully I tied the three together through the lore that I've created. So there we have some more randomly generated sprites made into Fakemon. And like I said at the start of this video, thank you so much for watching this series. It's honestly blowing me away how much you guys love it and how many people are watching little old me and my designs and drawings. I personally really enjoy this challenge as well. I feel like I'm developing my skills and pushing my limits as well as an artist. So I'll be carrying on doing it. In the next few videos, I'll be sharing some more Greek inspired Fakemon, so hopefully you can stick around for those as well. Thanks, bye!